by acknowledging the lands that we're on, and then I'll go through and give you a little quick rundown of what we're about to do, and I'll hand you over to the talented cast that we've got lined up to walk us through this seasonal readiness session tonight. So just to start off with, I'm coming to you from the lands of the Wurundjeri people and the Wadawurrung people and the Dja Dja Wurrung people, all of the Kulin speaking nations. And I'd like to pay my deep respects to elders past, present and emerging, and to their elders, and to any Aboriginal people who are working with us, volunteering with us, or also who might be on the line today and looking at our Mildura representative in particular. So welcome to our seasonal readiness session for 2021. And it's really fantastic. I think we've got about 50 people online already. This is the first of 2 sessions. So we'll have a session tonight. We'll follow it up with another session the same time, same place next week, but with extra information. So this next session will be a different session. My job as your host and MC tonight is to keep things going along as we promise. And to do so, I've enlisted a trusty glass and a pen. So if one of the speakers is going quite close to the line, I'm going to be dinging. And so those fantastic people who've put their hands up to go, if you hear that, you know that it's time to wrap up. There's going to be lots of important and interesting information that you're going to get tonight. We may run out of time for some of those areas, but we will promise that a few things. One is that we will be following this session up with a post-seasonal readiness pack, which will include your video, the slides and some other pieces of information. But also we will be following up next week with some of the things that we felt that weren't really touched on or that needed to be explored further. We can't cover everything in an hour and a half. So without further ado, I think we've gone through muting your session. We've gone to welcome you. We've looked at making sure you've got the information today, next week, all of those bits and pieces. So I'm not going to talk any further, but I'm going to introduce you to our first speakers, who are our Divisional Operations Officer from the South Gippsland Division, JJ Edmondson, who's talking to and with our Vic Emergency Services State Manager, Kate Siebert. Welcome, Kate and JJ.
Thank you so much. Now, where's Kate?
And yeah, Kate is online, and Kate was going to kick us off, I believe. So hope you're there, Kate. I did see you come in.
Hopefully you can hear me. Joe, can I get a sound check?
Yes, we can hear you. 5 out of 5.
Yeah, fantastic. Hey, JJ, nice to see you in your beautiful ferny background. It looks like nice wet forest wherever you are, and by gosh, haven't we had a wet forest so far in 2021. I thank you, Margaret. Thank you, Joe, for organising this. And hello to all of your beautiful faces, those that I can see, and hello to all of the rest of you who are online as well. I'm proudly coming to you from Wurundjeri country as well, and I pay my respects to elders past, present and future, and to any Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander people that I personally continue to learn from, and also as the service that we do as part of the Australian Red Cross Emergency Services. I am so proud to be here with you this evening, and thank you so much for the opportunity to share the airways. And I'm really looking at my co-pilot there, JJ. I think there's a couple of things just I'd love to touch on, JJ, and I'd love to get curious with you on a couple of things. The first one is just reflecting on the year that we've had. Now, I think sun's changing, so you've got a bit of a silhouette of me. Hopefully you can see me okay. I'm just going to pop, now, for those of you new to Teams, I'm popping an image into the chat function, and hopefully it works. Here we go. And we all knew that 2020 was a pretty interesting year, but it was really just a trailer for the year that we've had. 2021 proved to be as challenging, if not more challenging, than 2020, and we didn't imagine that was possible. But when it comes to the work that we do as Australian Red Cross, I think it's really important that we are framing what we do in the spirit of taking care of not only others, but ourselves. So JJ, we've had a really interesting year, haven't we? The hangover, the very big hangover of 2020, the bushfires and the first initial response to COVID. And we thought that, wow, that was all done and dusted. And and we thought that perhaps the 2021 would be a year of great hopes and optimism. And then 2021 came and wrapped itself around us and pretty much proved that we were all wrong. It was a mix of COVID and a mix of the almighty storms that tore through and floods that tore through our communities in June, and more recently too, with significant power outages and great damage. I might just pause, Margaret. I know that there's a few people with their hands up and things like that. Shall I just keep moving? I'll get the thumbs up from you that's what I'll do.
Yeah, Kate, keep moving, but people can put questions in the chat, or we can follow up afterwards with emails. So thanks, Kate.
Amazing.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no worries. I just make sure that we're not leaving anybody behind. But JJ, what's your reflections on the year that was? If 2021 is a meme or a funny little picture like that I've just popped in the chat, tell us your reflection. What does it mean when we talk about well-being?
I almost feel like the roadrunner just running around constantly without a break. It's been a case of, in previous years, we were able to have breaks between activations, and I just don't feel we've stopped. We've just kept on going and going and going. And even when it's been locked down, we've still been going. We've still been doing our CASI calls, our outreach. We've been doing our food deliveries. We've been doing our storm activations. So it hasn't stopped. And suddenly everything's changed again. Now people are suddenly going back to work. They've got their families suddenly back at schools, and they're trying to juggle that with still being able to try to support the community. So we're tired. Very, very tired.
Really, a great reflection, JJ, and I totally appreciate where you're coming from. I think what's really interesting is Victoria has just had its own experience, and normally when we have emergencies, we're also managing someone else's emergency. But in this instance, the last 2 years have really been our emergency as well, and that's pretty tricky in terms of how we manage our own well-being, how we manage to keep ourselves afloat, energized when the demand for service, particularly for Red Cross, has been never before as big in peacetime. So it's just been relentless, and I know that our emergency service partners feel the same. I know people in Victoria feel the same, and so I think it's really important that I guess that we just reflect on the fact that we've had such an enormous year together.
No, so yeah, I'm in. So if I can get it on an email, I can get it.
So, sorry, Kate, we're getting a little bit of feedback there. Can I ask everyone to pop themselves on mute?
I think that's Pam.
Melita, that would be you too, thanks.
I think it's Pam. If you can mute, we can mute Pam, I think. I think we're good. Yep, thanks, Pam. Great to have you on board, though. Great to see you. I think if we go back a couple of years when we were getting prepared for you're in the middle of the drought, and we were getting prepared for what we thought would be potentially a decent fire season, and even go back a couple of years before that. I think many of our people, when we were asking for survey feedback, were saying we want to get more involved. We want to get more active as Red Cross volunteers, or not once a year. We want to stay fit and we want to stay engaged, all of that kind of stuff. And by golly, didn't the universe provide? So, JJ, what's your top tips? Like, you're a divisional leader. You've been leading your people now for, a good long while. What's your tips for keeping your people healthy and well? Particularly when we're getting asked to do so much at such a great personal cost?
Well, I always say to all my team and division, I say the first thing is family always comes first. Work comes second. Volunteering comes third. But to do any of this, we've got to take care of ourselves. So in fact, the real number one is ourselves. And if we fall by the wayside, if we do too much, then we can't help other people. And we also let our colleagues down because we're not able to be as fit and caring and able to take that load. So I tell everybody our well-being, personal well-being, is the number one thing. Making sure that you get enough rest, that you make sure you do those things that make you happy, those things that give you joy. And as people who come on many of these meetings know, for me, that's my animals. I frequently have a cat on my shoulder. I love my rocks. I love I love singing. I try to do those things as well. Maybe not so much singing over the last couple of years, but I do try to fit in those things, and I want my team to do the same. So the healthier, the better we are in our personal well-being, the more we can give to others.
Oh, that's such good advice. So it's figuring out, knowing yourself is what I'm hearing from that, so that then you can be best placed to help other people. I think it's fantastic. I think if you want any research that sort of backs up the importance of what we're doing, and we're not just talking about it for the fun of it. There's plenty of research that indicates people in emergency services, whether that be, fire agencies or flood or storm or police officers, are 4 to 5 times more likely to suffer anxiety and depression as a result of the work that we are doing. And I don't think we're much different. So it's really important that we listen to that research, and that guides us in terms of how we do our practice. So, well-being might be a new term, but we've been focused on well-being of people, since we started PFA, which is at least the last decade and probably the last 20 years or so as Australian Red Cross. The PFA skills and all of those things comes out of the World Health Organization. It's best practice in the world. That's really good for caring for other people, but we've got to get, I think, as a sector, as all agencies, better at looking after ourselves. I had the great opportunity of listening to all of the emergency services emerging leaders, of which we had some fantastic representatives from Red Cross, and there was a call to action saying that as a sector we need to get better about caring for our people when it comes to mental health and wellbeing. But it can start with you and you as individuals. I think one of the most important things, and if there's any lesson that I'd love you to take away from today, is be like JJ and put your family first, and then all of your friends and your pets and all of those things, and then volunteering as number 3. And that's really important, particularly for the next bit, which is it's okay to not be okay, and it's okay for when you get the call to say, today's not a good day for me and I can't. Particularly if that's going to come at a personal cost for you or your family or any of those other things that are more important. You have permission to not be okay. You have permission to say no. And I tell you what, we also welcome you back when you're ready. So when that next call comes, you are absolutely, it's not going to mean that you're not available the next time, not at all. But it does mean that it is so important that you're putting yourself first, and your team members are putting themselves first, particularly as we come out of lockdown, come out of COVID, this new world, everyone trying to normalise back into life that was like 2019. But actually it's not, because we've had a road and we need to come out at our own pace. So come out of the shell at your own pace and be who you need to be the best you, so that you can then not only look after your family, but also be an amazing Red Cross volunteer into the future for a long time. So JJ, in summary, is there any other parting tips that you reckon to anybody in terms of preparing for this coming, hot weather season? What's your top tips going into summer?
Talk with your team. Make sure that you've got a buddy. Make sure that they're aware of how you're travelling. Support each other, and so therefore when you need to have a break. And as Adele put in the comments, sometimes I need to listen to myself about that. So luckily I've got a good deputy do. It's working together, understanding your own limitations, and making sure you get that balance right. Be there for the community, but don't forget to be there for your family and for yourself. So take those moments of joy, and then you'll be stronger.
That's beautiful, JJ. I'm so proud to walk beside you, and thanks for everything that you continue to do. And I hope that we together can look after each other. I'm going to pop a little link in the chat, and it's a cute little 1-minute YouTube video. If you haven't seen it, it's beautifully aligned with what we've just been talking about. It's called Put the Glass Down. I'll let you watch it in your own time, but it goes for 1 minute, and it's about essentially the summary is, if you don't get a chance to watch the link, it goes for 1 minute, but it's basically, if you hold a glass of water for 1 minute, it's okay. You hold a glass of water for an hour, your arm starts to ache. You hold a glass of water for the whole day, your arm starts to get numb and it's aching and it's painful and very distracting, and you're not able to be your true self because it's excruciating. And that's essentially what burden and stress is like. So if you're not looking after yourself and putting the glass of water down from time to time, it gets very, very heavy. So watch that in your own time. But I guess I'll throw back to you, Margaret and Jo, and say thanks so much for having me this evening.
Hey, Kate and JJ, really just grateful for you for spending some time with us in this group tonight. So I think the key takeaways for me, as well as for everyone here, is that it's really important to put ourselves first and our well-being. We are very giving people, but we can't give unless our own tanks are pretty full. And it's okay to say no. I heard a phrase called November recently, so it's okay to say no. So thanks, Kate. I encourage everyone to have a look at that video, and we'll also include it in the pack. And thanks, JJ, too, for the insights tonight. So really fantastic, and I think that sets us up really well, Kate and JJ, for the very next bit, which is where we get to understand a little bit about our seasonal update, about what we might be looking into the not so far future for. So Lisa Keedle, are you there and ready to go? So Lisa is our state lead for recovery and resilience, and all things recovery and resilience, which means that she's also been putting a great deal of work into setting up this session today. Lisa, are you there?
I am, Margaret. Thank you.
Okay,
Hi,
over to you.
Thanks, Margaret. So everybody, good evening, and so good to see you all, and so many faces and names on the screen. It's really lovely. I'm coming to you from Bunurong country today, so I'm actually off site with the recovery team and have spent a day face to face with my team, which has just been lovely and has filled our cup today, which has just been delightful. So I'm going to give you a bit of a seasonal weather update, and I've got Jo has got my slides, so I'm hoping Jo can share the screen, and I'll take you through a few slides. So today I'm going for a global view, like a national view, and then down to a more regional view around our seasonal updates and where you can get information. Now, in this first slide, I just want to acknowledge the little head in the bottom right-hand corner. That's Kevin Parkin from the Bureau of Meteorology. So these are Kevin's slides and Kevin's words. They're not Lisa's magicked up sort of slides. So I just want to acknowledge that the wisdom comes from a source of truth and a trusted source as well. And so what I've done is gone through his seasonal update that he's given to the whole of the emergency services sectors. So he's done regional and state updates for everybody, and I thought I'd give the same presentation, but sort of cut it down for Red Cross and for maybe what our volunteers and what you all might want to know about. So this one really is the global view around what's happening around our country and what's happening in the oceans, both the Pacific and the Indian Ocean and the oceans to the south, the seas to the south and to the north of our country, to give us the type of summer that we're heading into. So essentially what we're heading into is called a La Nina, which means we'll have a wet summer, and essentially that's sort of different when the opposite to that is El Nino, which is actually a kind of dry summer. So typically what's happening is that we have a negative Indian Ocean dipole. So the Indian Ocean is sort of pushing a negative increase of flow of weather into our country, and will give us an above average rainfall from spring, which I think we've all experienced across most patches of where we are, where we've had saturating rains. And I even saw Margaret put a comment in Facebook about they've had phenomenal rains, but also dust storms. So we're really in a complex system. And essentially will be a fairly mild for fire season. And there's another slide about that coming up in terms of our fire season. But essentially what we're looking for globally for southeastern Australia is a wet summer, and so a higher rainfall than intended, but that has an impact on some of our temperatures and our storms, obviously. So next slide, please, Jo. So when we're looking at rainfall for Australia, you can just see, and this is a beautiful blue patch, and the darker the blue, the higher the rainfall. And as I sort of said, We've experienced significant rainfall in September and October. So we're expecting up to 70 to 80% increase across coming into the summer period. So obviously with the La Nina effect, we're going to have an increased level of rainfall. And I think what's important around for our state is the fact that that patch, and if you can see that map and that dark blue in the corner, the top corner, the northeast corner of our patch, that's right up near Lynn Jones's country, essentially the high rainfall in that particular area. So that's a significant sort of increase of weather and temperature. So right leading into December, there'll be increased rainfall, so really higher than the median average. Thanks, Joe. So when we talk about that rainfall, that leads to flooding, and it leads to increased riverine flooding. And I think what's important when we talk about the reason why flooding occurs and riverine flooding occurs is because we've got saturation in the soil. And I'm sure if any of you walk around your garden, walk around your home, you know, if you're stepping across a lawn or anywhere, you'll notice how saturated and the squelching of the grass in which we're walking across is essentially that actually the catchments, a lot of our catchments are quite full. And have no capacity to hold any more rainfall or any more moisture in their soil system. So essentially the catchment becomes saturated and the runoff then runs into our rivers and streams. So essentially there is an absolute likelihood, and we've already had floodings this year, but also increased flooding likely with any of the severe thunderstorms that are going to come through. They'll go straight into a riverine flooding warning. So we've seen a number of those this spring. And we'll continue to see those across the summer period and into early autumn as we talk about thunderstorms weather as well. So what you can see in that image there on the right hand side of your picture is obviously the increased likelihood of saturation in the catchment zone, the root zone soil moisture is higher. Again, it's in the eastern part of the state and into the southern part of the state near the coastline as well. Thanks, Joe. So severe thunderstorms, well, essentially, I think for Victoria, severe thunderstorms is pretty significant. It's between spring and right into late autumn. So I think they used to talk about them sort of just being summer thunderstorms, but now what we have is actually spring and autumn being also quite turbulent seasons. So they're expecting and anticipating severe thunderstorm activity to be significantly more across the whole summer right into April 2022. Now, I think when we talk about severe thunderstorms, it's important to understand that really we're talking about increased wind gusts of up to 90 kilometres. There is a heavy rainfall that produces that flash flooding that I talk about, essentially, where runoff is not, it's running off into our streams and systems. And then we've got large hail occurring, so bigger than sort of a $2 coin types of size of hailstorms. So when we talk about severe thunderstorms, that's likely to happen. So, you know, be on the lookout for those. And if you're a lovely cloud weather nerd, that image on the right-hand side is one of the lovely images from the BOMS calendar that we get to see every so often. I don't know if anyone gets to have a look at that, but there are some spectacular images of a cloud. So that's a significant cloud burst and a cumulus nimbus occurring on the right there. That's pretty amazing. I love nature. Okay, next slide. Thanks, Joe. So what does that mean for our temperatures if we're talking about increased rainfall, likelihood of flooding? Actually, what's happening with our temperatures is that pretty much most of the state will sort of be relatively a cool sort of environment, so that not much of it it's exceeding it, but in the northern plains, in pockets that are actually in the northern plains closer to those drier pockets and those dry areas, we're going to have 30 to 40% above median temperature, 30% warmer. And then on the coastal pockets, so again, if we look at that image on the right-hand side, you can see at the very southern tips on the coastal regions. Thanks, Joe. Nice arrow. A 50 to 70% increase of our median average temperature. So really, I suppose, when we're saying it's a mild summer, it's still high rainfall. There's still pockets across the state where we'll have increased temperatures above average. Thanks, Joe. And then ultimately this leads to heat wave, which I've noticed is actually becoming a little bit, there's a bit more of a predictions given around heat waves. And interesting in Kevin's presentation when he gave it earlier, back in early October that I saw, he's talking about that actually heat waves is a new area of work that the BOM have been working on for the last few years and trying to give predictions. And he said it's really difficult for the BOM to give predictions or long forecasts. So typically what they try and do is average out the maximum and minimum temperatures, so overnight and daytime temperatures, to be able to give a 3-day period of a heat wave, likelihood of heat wave. So for us in Victoria, it's common for us to have heat waves and they're likely to kind of occur. But in terms of predictions for the summer, it's probably above sort of severe likelihood of heat waves across the northern zones of our state. Again, the coastal areas, not so much, around average, but the northern areas of heat wave. And essentially, as I sort of said, a reminder, probably it's hard for them, the BOM, to calculate that. And quite often they'll give a prediction probably at the very beginning of a 3-day period or in the middle of the 3-day period, depending on the what's happening with the weather at the time. So it's not something that we can easily kind of find information about from time to time if we're looking for it. Thanks, Joe. And then we go into the forest fire danger index, which is an indicator of what we're likely to have in terms of forest fires, but also our actually frequency of severe bushfires. So I think for me, when I look at this image, I feel a little bit sort of relaxed. I've spoken about a higher rainfall and a wetter summer. So therefore, what that means is that we're likely to have in the southeastern states a lower than average forest fire risk. And I'll qualify that, but it's forest fire. We're still likely to have grass fires in the northwest country of Victoria, again in those plains pockets, but essentially the forest fire risk for this summer for our state is essentially not a chance of it. Won't exceed its medium. We'll keep it at a low level, which is I think is probably good news for us in terms of what the activity might look like going forward for this summer. Thanks, Joe. So I've given you a statewide perspective, and I think it's important that we understand when we talk about our regional breakdowns, how do we go and seek information? So the information that we can get in terms of a 7-day or a 5-day forecast can be provided to us by Emergency Management Victoria through MCOP, so Emergency Management Common Operating Picture, which is the online platform that Emergency Management Victoria use. And I think I've got put up two images here. On the left, we've got the fire weather and heat intelligence forecast, which is a 7-day forecast. And it's a really good way of getting regional intelligence. So I don't know if many of you tap into this, but this is a reminder that you can tap into this information and it can be found on MCOP. And you go into briefings and you can find these slides. Are really, really helpful. They're updated every day, so you can get a forecast updated every day. I took these from last Friday. So essentially you've got all green for the state for the next, well, from last Friday through until sort of Thursday, sorry, of this week. It looks all lovely. And then to the right, you've got the actual severe weather. So the storm weather event, and that's put together by obviously by the SES as well as EMV in conjunction with the BOM, and they give an update of the likelihood of the severity of thunderstorms and wind events that might occur in your area. So I think it's really important that essentially we give you a seasonal perspective of what's actually happening around us and what the actual environment's doing. Oh, it's interesting, Mick, that the Sunraysia had a severe fire danger day. Yeah, it was last week, was it? And that essentially this is where you can get your information. So if you're wanting to look ahead, you're planning ahead for your workforce or understanding what it is, essentially you can actually look at the forecast to understand maybe what your local needs might need to be. This is your place to go to because, as I said, it's updated daily and it's a really good local source of information. So that's our presentation on the seasonal, on the weather update for the seasonal readiness. And I hope I've given you a sort of a national perspective of what the environment's doing, what the season will look like, and then brought it down to a regional level where you can go and get information and help understand what's happening at a local level. Thanks, Margaret, and thanks everybody for having me along.
Margaret, sorry,
yeah,
Margaret,
Joe.
very rudely jumped in. Just before I pass again to you, just wanted to highlight in part of the resource pack for everybody, there's a how-to guide for that EMCOP, the Common Operating Picture, which Lisa's referenced, and a few recordings and documents to assist with using MCOP. We all across Red Cross VKS have access and the ability to use MCOP. So there's no exclusion there, depending on a role. We all have we all are able to use it. So look out for those resources and we'll talk to them a bit more later. Thanks, Margaret.
Brilliant. Thank you, Joe. And look, just to remind everyone that if there's questions that you've got coming along as you're listening to, especially that presentation from Lisa on seasonal readiness, really great information there. It might be raising questions for you. Pop them in the chat, and we can answer them over the next week. Lisa Keedle, thank you so much for introducing us to this year's seasonal outlook. Really appreciate it. And I know that this group is just about to go into some breakout rooms. So one of the things that we hear often from our Vic ES people right across the state is that when we do come together, everyone values being able to connect and have their other phones switched off. To connect and go, and we do that in this weird old COVID world by being online and being able to go into breakout rooms. So in a moment, everyone's about to go and disappear into a room, and you'll have some questions, some prompts that you can have a chat about within those rooms. We do have a little bit of technical support on the background, so if you are having a bit of problems, just pop it in the chat and we'll try and troubleshoot that for you. Joe, is everybody ready to be whisked away?
I hope so. This will take me 15 or 20 seconds, so just bear with me. I'm feeling the pressure now, but you'll be whisked away into your breakout room for the next 30 minutes or so. We'll post up some announcements in that breakout room to sort of guide the conversation. But essentially, we're keen to let's have a chat, share what we're seeing and hearing in our patch. Great to see Mick and Margaret posting up some thoughts there from their area up in Sunraysia. Yeah, what are you saying? What are you talking about in your division? Inside Red Cross, outside of Red Cross? That's the flavour. So I'll go and do some tech, and hopefully you all will disappear.
Bated breath.
Level, we're all comfortable and we can use those systems, because as we'll see on the 29th and the 6th.
So you will be able to, once you hop into those rooms, take yourselves off mute. There'll be an opportunity to talk to each other, and then you're all going to be zipped back here in about half an hour. So get ready to unmute yourselves to be able to talk.
Opening now, so
Okay.
get ready.
Mick's doing a countdown.
If this all goes to plan, I'll be very lonely in a moment.
Bye, Joe.
See you, JJ.
I'm off mute.
Hello. Everyone got me? Hi,
Hi.
Kathy. Sandy.
Yes. Yep. Hi.
Margaret, Farrell. Yeah, you're there. Yep.
Yeah, just got there then.
No problem. We are essentially the last breakout room. We're the mixed bunch, if you like, because sometimes when you do the breakout rooms, it depends what time people have come in. But we've got a number of us here, so who wants to start the conversation?
I apologise for being late. I couldn't get in for a while. I do apologise.
No problem, Sandy. We've got a recording, so you'll get that after as well.
Thank you.
So I'm going to mute myself for a minute, but essentially in our breakout room here, the purpose of this is to connect with fellow Red Cross people across the state, and the conversation is about what we're seeing and hearing out in our divisions, how we're all going. We're all from different parts of the state, so are you noticing those flood and potential storm events that in your part, or is it drier where you are? Maybe you're over in the west.
Well, I was going to say something. I think there was a comment. Lisa mentioned it. Yes, like last week, after all that rain. Well, actually, Mick may correct me, but 10 to 15 mils. I mean, that's a lot of rain because it doesn't rain often in Mildura. But yeah, the day after we have these huge dust storms, so everything's obviously pretty dry around us. And I was noticing those on that presentation, the heat wave one. Yes, we were close enough on the Vic border to the South Australian red zone, which impacts us because it's only about an hour and a half away, to make us realise that apart from not receiving as much rain as other areas, yeah, it's extremely hot. And if we get a storm on top, we don't want about 20,000 lightning bolt strikes because it could be interesting.
Yeah, absolutely, Margaret. And I know the Mallee pretty well, and yeah, I can. Yeah, that dust storm was just a little reminder the other day of what potentially can happen.
Yes, especially after look, on the average, I think it was 10 mils, if anything. That's a lot of rain for up here, considering our annual average isn't more than 300. What was I going to say? The good old 12-inch scale, but yeah. And then we've got harvest going on, so there'll be a lot of dry grass out there. But yeah, we've got a potential for maybe a fire or two. And flat open country, so yeah, that's from up our northwest region. As I said, we were looking pretty close to that red heat wave on Lisa's map. So yes, Andy, because you're in Melbourne, aren't you? Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
I have CFA down the big Baccarat to Cranbourne, so we have a lot of green wedges, or not really so green wedges down that way. I'm lucky to have two faces that sort of fall over and hit people. The Cindergrove. I have port where boats go into the wharf. Interesting place.
Well, I just wonder how much those southern and eastern areas that had all that rain, how some of the lovely big tall trees that we don't have up here, how impacted they will be after more rain and storm. What happens? I just wonder if it makes some people very vulnerable. Yeah, we have flat open country, so yeah.
Well, we have flat country. Sorry, whoever. I'm out. Apologies.
Helen, I think Helen's got her hand up.
I was just going to say, down in East Gippsland, we had very wet conditions about 10 days ago, and we were driving up to Melbourne, and half of the highway was underwater, and there was a huge amount of water in the paddocks all the way around, and bits of other roads were cut off and so on. But there were major flood warnings for the Mitchell and the Devon, but in the end, I don't think they actually had a huge impact on individual properties. Lots of farms had their lower bits inundated, but I don't think there were too many houses affected in the end.
Yeah, interesting, Helen, and yeah, nice to hear a bit of what's happening in East Gippsland. I'm sort of just jumping in here and probably talking too much. So again, I'm going to try and stay out of it. But Alan, interesting to see. Good to have you along, Alan Benson. Obviously in a patch where there's significant storm event, Alan. So I guess still in that recovery phase, absolutely, as you go into summer.
Yes, certainly. People in the Dandenongs, both within our division as well as Eastern Division, Darwin, Cockatoo and Gembrook and all these areas up there. Many people are very, very apprehensive, having been impacted 2 or 3 times, depending on exactly where they were. And even those who weren't impacted in any of those are worrying that perhaps the next time the area that suffers will be their area, sort of waiting in bated breath and hoping it doesn't happen. We've had a number of our team have actually had damage done in the severe weather storm, and it raised a number of questions. There's one, for example, who was told by the power company that they weren't impacted. And she said, we are. And it's, I've tried for 3 days to get through to you people to tell you that the power's out. And you tell me the power's not out, your area's quite all right. So, some problems communicating with the authorities, depending on what you've got, power and water, council and so on. Because some of their information is not all that accurate. That just adds to the apprehension of some people concerned. Haven't had that sort of problem before. Come up with 3 of our members, given this latest storm, severe storm situation that happened. Also impacted, of course, because a number of the team are not yet COVID ready to work. Our volunteer situation is less than normal. Don't know how that feels. The other areas, you've got all your members on that.
Yeah, really, really interesting, Alan. You broke up just at the end there a little bit for me. I'm not sure if that was others, but I'd certainly got the just a really timely reminder. I think that we're very focused on fires now, and there's a lot of talk about fires and floods. But again, we've got that storm event happened across vast parts of the state, and especially the Yarra Ranges, the Eastern Metro area, and down around Moorabool and Hepburn Shires, and a lot of people still in recovery. A lot of apprehension, as Alan mentioned. So I think that's just really, important to keep in mind. But Kathy, I mean, it's sort of your patch as well, isn't it? It's not that far away from Alan.
Yes, except we're, I guess, a bit more, we haven't got the country areas so much within our division. But I have been down, spent a fair bit of time in South Gippsland recently. It's pretty wet down there. Still drying out down there.
We haven't, glad you got down there, Kathy.
I got down there a few weeks ago and there was no power for several days too. Not a lot of fun. Apologies, I was late too. I don't know if you are aware, there was an IMT ops function team meeting tonight till 7:30.
Yeah, no problem, Kathy. We're trying. Yeah, we had to try to put things in where's best. But that, the recording from the very start will be made available to everybody. But because keen to hear from Kat or Chris or Eric. I mean, the idea of this time was really just to have a chat and to see some faces. But is there things maybe you're sensing in your part of the world, or also for the whole group? Are there some simple things that you're taking to your approach with your Red Cross work around getting ready and preparing for the season ahead? Maybe you're a divisional leader, or perhaps you're a proactive or response member. Perhaps you have a role in the IMT. Is there some? It's just a great opportunity, I think, to share any tips you might have or share your knowledge.
Chris here, Joe. Yeah, the inner Grampians have been busy both in getting smashed in June with the storm event through the shires of Moorabool and Hepburn, and then it came through again in the end of October as well. And Moorabool Shire actually had more structural damage in October than they did in June. Moorabool Shire's running some more recovery programs at the moment, and then Red Cross will be doing outreach again in December, January for Moorabool as well. That's sort of been keeping us pretty busy. A bit of wet weather, but predominantly the wind and the storms have certainly created the havoc. And I went through Trentham Bellato only the other day, and it's like a moonscape now. It's exceptionally devastating through those areas. And what's interesting is now, particularly the kids are struggling with any wind at all. It doesn't necessarily have to be a storm, but as soon as the wind kicks up a bit, they start to get quite anxious. So there's quite a bit of work there to be done. So maybe pillowcase might be quite prominent in the beginning of the new year. But yeah, that's pretty much, we've had the Incident Control Centre established in Ballarat a couple of times, where I've done MLO work there. So that's been interesting to be in that space after the bushfires. But other than that, it's business as usual.
Again, Chris, really interesting and good to get that perspective from the other main area that was impacted. Obviously, your patch over Moorabool and Hepburn. Kat, I can't help but notice we're in the best breakout room. I feel so we get the who's the special guest, Kat?
Oh, it's finally unmuting. This is Hannah. Hannah, say hello to everyone.
Hello.
Hey.
Hello.
On her makeup when she should have been having a shower. Very nicely done, sweetheart. Ready to go back. Go have your. So I'm in the same area as Chris, and the only thing I really have to add is I spent the October, when we had the event in end of October, I spent it helping out with SES, in fact, and the other external agencies like Vic Roads and Council and Powercore, I found that they were just they've never been so ill prepared and overwhelmed, I guess. And I felt it was it's just a sign of the times that we've all got too much of. It's just been going on so long that everyone's just over it. And I think seeing it from the other, not emergency services, but other agencies was quite an interesting point, that they're all done as well. It's not just those of us responding and preparing and so on. So it's, yeah, I sort of think there's that, what is it, the long-term effect of it is quite strong.
Absolutely, Kat. Yeah, just reflecting again back to chatting with Kate earlier today, and then hearing Kate speak earlier, that just emphasis on confidence to say no, because things will keep happening. Let's hope that the next couple of years are drastically different than the past couple. But things will continue to happen at some point, and yeah, I think we all in this room absolutely know it's very easy to say yes and feel the urge to help and answer the call, but yeah, we can't say yes to everything. So I think I'm preaching to the converted on that one here, but yeah, let's just take it easy, and with a bit of luck we might have a quiet few months, but I'm not going to say that. I think Alan might have your hand up there. Alan,
Yes.
Alan Benson.
Just going to ask Josh, I read somewhere a little while ago that a second survey was going to be sent out to those volunteers who have not responded to the first survey about the COVID situation. Do you know, can you give us any update on that? I mean, has it been sent? Are there any responses to it, or what's happening in that regard, please?
Short answer, Alan, not sure at all. I don't know, but I've made a note of this. We've got someone in each room capturing anything particularly relevant like that one, Alan, which certainly is to just follow up. So Bianca, Lou and a number of others, Gabrielle Sharp and a few have been leading that work. So can certainly get an answer and probably provide an answer in the post-session materials, and we'll pop it around in a few places so that you not only get the answer, Alan, but anything we find out is shared everywhere. So can follow that up, Alan, probably by, I'd say sometime tomorrow. Sandy?
Hi, may I throw something new into the ring? Myself and Andrew, who is a FRV or fire person, we were talking the other month, and we're talking about high-rise fires. Now, you've got a city in one building. I've got most of St Kilda, South Melbourne, St Kilda Road, and all the city part of my areas. are high rise, and if we have one high rise building in St Kilda Road go off, we might have students like who have rented out their rooms. So they've got 10 students in one room, and all different nationalities, all different languages, who don't read the signs, who don't know how to use the fire hydrant, and maybe not attend the fire drills. So we were talking about preparedness for high rises and modern sort of buildings, and I've put it in the chat for Margaret. And it's certainly interesting for the conversation that you can have, because how many people do you have in how many 600 flats or whatever? I don't know. I just thought I'd throw that into the ring today. And Chelsea got slammed by storms too. Over now.
It's an interesting one. I thought I'll jump in and say, because I lived in Japan for a long time, and they had a brilliant way of telling us all that didn't speak Japanese at the time. It was just a video with no words, what to do. And in that case, it was when there's an earthquake or a tsunami. It was 20 years ago. And I was required to watch it when I signed into living in town and tick off a box that I'd watched it. It was quite good knowing what to do, turning off your gas, where to exit the building, where to go to. So maybe whether those sorts of things already exist that we can have that are not involving language and just involving actions and pictures could be very useful.
Kat, I think that's really great insights from you and Sandy. And for those who in the room that might not be aware, my focus in Red Cross is working with the representatives on the MEMCs, the Municipal Emergency Management Planning Committees. And that, what you've raised initially there, Sandy, I think it's absolutely something that would be, that's where a MEMC could be of great value, I believe, is raising something like that with the councils, with the fire departments, starting a conversation. But I know that you would already know that, and you probably already have, but yeah, I just wanted to pass that to the room as well.
Thank you.
Legacy hand there, Alan, or?
Sorry, Josh.
Yeah, I think you still got your hand up there, Alan, but maybe it's a legacy hand from earlier.
Sorry, I thought I'd lowered it. Okay, yep.
No problem. Eric's got his hand up now.
What's going on?
We got you, Eric.
Hi, Eric.
Maybe we've lost him.
Yes, I don't know.
Looks like he's frozen.
Like a sound. I think I got maybe a sound issue from Eric. We might come back to Eric or put something up in the chat, Eric, if you like. But we're going to exit the breakout rooms in a few minutes, but please keep chatting. I think already we've shared a couple of nice things and insights about what we're seeing in our part of the world. Yeah, I found that really valuable, just reflecting again on the recovery work that's still going on. I know there's hundreds of people that are going to get an outreach visit from maybe Red Cross or maybe Victorian Council of Churches as well, or others over the next few days. There's doing a lot of outreach to a lot of homes in storm affected areas. So yeah, keep up the good work in that space. I'm going to.
Your sound's gone, Joe.
I'll probably disappear. You've got about 5 minutes and then you'll get whisked away back to the next presentation. So feel free to keep chatting and I'll just do a couple of tech things and be back. So.
Julia, how is Cockatoo and Emerald and so on getting on up the hills now? You there, Julia?
Julia? Is everyone having trouble?
Perhaps she's got sound problems too.
I can hear buzzing, etc. in the background. But actually, both Kat and you, Sandy, that high-rise initiative, that's a brilliant one, because whether the management ever do anything in those, I mean, I've got relatives at South Melbourne, and listening to your suburbs there, Sandy, it's a big issue. I wonder if their establishments have whether the council does have anything like our MC. Our multi-storey building goes about 2 levels in Mildura, so we're pretty right. When you
jump out the window.
Yeah, just about. Yeah, the ground is a bit hard. Yeah, the ground is a bit hard because it's dry and not soft and squelchy from the rain. But when I think of those the towers there at South Melbourne and not so much them, but the other Kensington Park towers and the Flemington ones, they're a bit of a nightmare. Gee.
They don't have to be tall, but they are big. In Bentley now, they're building big flats, tiny little flats, but big, and about 700 to 1,000 people. And I'm going, down the stairs. Can we have a shoot, please? I don't know.
Certainly, Kathy, Sandy and Tom. I've been in South 7 years. There was nothing called from the management about any emergency stuff, except use the lifts in case of fire.
Yeah.
It was in English, despite the majority of people not being naturally English speakers. But there was no attention to emergency situations out there at all. Hopefully, makes it.
Probably even a practice run would be enough to frighten them to think it was the real thing. You can't even get a practice drill, but
Okay. Alan, Sandy, can you hear me?
Yep.
Can hear you.
Good. I'm back.
That's good.
Yeah, just following on from that, Sandy, I'm surrounded by Housing Victoria high rise, so it's very interesting what you're saying there. And it is a bit of a worry because a lot of the residents are Asian or African. A lot don't speak English very well. So it's something that I think needs to be looked at in terms of fire drills. I'm in a 7-story block, and I've noticed that we do have an evacuation procedure that comes over on audio. But I've noticed that there's not too many people that respond to it. So there's only about half a dozen of us out of something like 70-odd flats, that apartments that end up going downstairs and evacuating. So it needs to be looked at from a Housing Victoria perspective, I think.
And they stand.
There may be. It may already be, something that people have undertaken to do, but it just isn't something that gets across to the people well enough. So I don't know, Housing Victoria or other groups, Asylum Seeker Resource Centre, places like that may already have these sorts of resources that just need more getting out there. And that's maybe, rather than reinventing the wheel, maybe we could be more a part of helping them spread the word, or whether or not, if that makes sense.
The other thing is during the La Crosse fires, the apartment fires in Latrobe Street. A lot of them were students, and so many of them. We did something like about 2 weeks of just doing welfare checks on them all, and so many of them did not speak English at all. So it was a very difficult time. We got through it. We got everything pretty well organised through interpreters, etc. But it was a pretty tough running through all that.
Yeah, you did well then.
It could also be, Sandy, not just the high rise, but virtually all LGAs have got quite a number of rooming houses on their books.
Yes.
Have 20 or 30 people living in a 5-room house or something like this. Again, mostly migrants, and no idea of how to cope with emergencies and so on. So even through the MEMC, without the high rise that you have, other MEMCs can still look at it as a problem they need to look at just on that small living houses.
I said they were the largest rooming house council. And I'm thinking, I'm sure Port will be higher than that, but I'm lucky enough to have both of those. Yeah.
And then, of course, you've got the unregistered, what amount of unregistered rooming houses.
Yes.
No control over those until something goes wrong.
And owners, you can't find.
No.
But they should have those numbers on the building, but if the building's gone, you can't see the numbers. So, yeah, should be in the concrete.
They have that, and hiding behind phantom companies, holding companies and all this sort of stuff. They're the inspectors.
Anyone else have a thought on this?
Like a little miracle every day.
Helen,
Okay.
your vocals are breaking up a little bit for some reason. I don't know what's going on there.
Hi everyone. I've just muted everyone's. Apologies. We caught the end of you there, Eric. And Alan, thanks for that. But yeah, just had to mute briefly so we can welcome everyone back. The breakout rooms have now closed and we have everyone back, Margaret, I believe. So I'll pass back to you.
Fantastic. So I hope that you found that a really interesting, really good opportunity to go deep and in your conversational groups. So what I ask you before we just go to the next little bit is if you had a really good chance to talk, do a thumbs up. If you felt like you didn't get an opportunity to get a word in, thumbs down. So let's just see, is it thumbs up or thumbs down? Because, yep, a good few thumbs up there. So fantastic. So thank you so much for those conversations. I know the group that I was in was really fantastic in terms of talking about some of the COVID food deliveries. We talked about some of the, how we might go about finding more volunteers and actually getting bigger teams and keeping on going. So and smoothing out some of our processes. So some really, really good conversation that I had, and I hope that you did too. We're actually going to go along and maybe even this might help you with some of the questions that you have. We're going to go and have a listen to someone who works in my team who's going to talk to you about capability and capacity. So give you a capability and capacity update, which is around how many people we've got and what kind of skills they have and how the state team supports you in your capability and capacity, which is your people part of what you do. So I'd like to introduce you to Shana Ainsworth. Shana is a volunteer leadership support officer, and she's going to go through and give you a presentation of what's happening in the capability and capacity space. Shana, are you ready to go ahead? Okay, so
thanks,
Shana,
Margaret.
over to you.
I'm just going to share my screen, so if someone could just confirm if they can see that, that would be great.
Shana, absolutely good.
Lovely.
Perfect. I have had the privilege of putting together this wonderful PowerPoint, and when I was looking, I found all of these gorgeous photos. So you may or may not see yourself, but we're going to be looking at our people. So as Margaret says, I work in the capability and capacity, and this is kind of the journey that we're going to go on for about the next 10 minutes. So it's getting our people ready. What is our capacity? What is our capability? What can we do to get ready? And where can you get help for all of those wonderful curly questions? So let's break it down. What is capability and what is capacity? Capability is the skills and the knowledge. We want volunteers to feel confident as they step out and perform their duties as Red Cross volunteers. Capacity equals that we have enough people. So as we break this down further, we can see here in the capacity that we have 689 activation ready volunteers. So that's people who are currently active that are ready to be deployed to an activation. How this kind of is structured in the Red Cross, for those that are new, like myself, is that we have 23 divisions and a number of state office teams. So COVID program teams, an incident management team, a Victorian Emergency Inquiry Centre team. We like teams here, and learning and development team. So do we have enough? Even today in my breakout room, instantly it was no. Shake of the head, and you may be thinking that right now. Let me shed some light for you. Over the next year or 2 years, we're going to be developing divisional plans. So I'll be talking with the divisional operations officers to work out what it is your division needs. Recruitment windows will be for a year, and these are set. These will not change now. It will be in February, May, August, and November. I have them on a calendar. They are ready to go. We also maximise readiness right now by this session, and you turning up is fantastic. So we've looked at our capacity. We then need to look at our capability. So what are we doing in this space? As a team, we have 643 volunteers who have completed their psychological first aid. These are all active people. We need to have the right skills and knowledge to meet our legislation responsibility. Our MEMCs, we need to be attending them in a confident manner. And we also need to fulfill our obligations. So how do we do this? We have a range of roles that are flexible, and really you set your commitment. You choose. I love the wellbeing stuff. That was spot on. Volunteering is third. Whatever you need to come first needs to happen. We also have a rule book on the roles in terms of the role capability standards. We offer training through a variety of ways with some self-paced online modules. These include the newly developed leadership modules. There's online webinars such as PFA, team leader activation trainings. These happen monthly, and some face-to-face, which was scaled back through COVID. So we've looked at having the right amount of people with the right amount of skills to confidently step forward as a Red Cross volunteer. So what can we do to make sure that we are ready? That we are ready if we need to quickly be deployed out. To be active on Reds, have you been on your Reds account? Does your password work? If it doesn't, the next slide will help you with those questions. Do we have the right checks? Working with Children's Check, Police Check, and the new one for us is a work ready status in Victoria. This must be done by the 26th of November. If not, you will unfortunately be probationary until we can get that up. The work ready status is around the vaccination. We also need you to have the basic trainings of the PFA, register, find, reunite, food and water, but you can do as many learning modules as you can find on PageUp. So how can I get help? Speak to your divisional or IMT leads. They're here to help. Or you can lodge a request in our help desk, which comes past our team's desk, and we see them. You may like to call the number, or we do have some communications that come out. Read the red alert. Leaders, read the state office report, please. Strongly encouraged. If you haven't already done so, I would encourage you to join and stay connected on our Facebook page, Red Cross Vic ES Volunteers. And also for the leaders, join the Leaders Lounge. I was reminded to always think about music. And while I was preparing this, Bruno Mars came on, and the song You Can Count on Me, like 1, 2, 3, and I'll be there. As we think about our people and our communities, we will be there for our communities when we need them. Thank you so much. Thanks, Margaret. Throw back to you.
Thank you, Shana. I want to now go and Google You Can Count on Me 1, 2, 3 by Bruno Mars, and I suspect I might have it running in the back of my head for the rest of the week. Shana, thank you so much for walking this group through. I know there are lots of questions around training, and there will be more, and I'm pretty sure this group will have it. So we'll come back to you with some more information on that, but also feel free to pop your questions in the chat or to email us. Shana, that help desk is a fairly new addition to this area. I'm not sure that everyone has heard about it. Can I put you on the spot just to introduce people to the help desk if they haven't heard about it? And as I said, we won't take questions today and answer them here, but we will pop them in the chat. Shana, tell us about the help desk just briefly.
Yeah, my apologies. The help desk was only set up in the middle of this year, and the help desk is where you can submit, as I've seen the questions, you can't get access to PageUp, or where do I find this? If you set a request in, and Joe, we might put the link in the slides that get sent out, we can then help you navigate the wonderful world of Red Cross systems. So I encourage you to do so because, yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you, Shana. So I'm wondering here, the good thing is that we, as I promised, that we would be starting and ending on time. We've actually got a little bit of extra time. And I'm wondering, Joe Park, with the miracle of modern technology, I'm wondering if you could whiz people back into those breakout rooms just for a few minutes to actually see if there's any requests that people would like us to be thinking about to present next week. We do have a lineup that we're considering for next week, so we're not making it up out of thin air. But I know that you have all had some conversations today. You've got some information. This is a good opportunity if you'd like to feed into a particular topic that you'd like us to revisit next week. Joe, are you okay to send everyone off into their respective rooms again?
Yeah, absolutely, Margaret. And we had some great chats happening in our breakout room earlier. So there's never long enough in a breakout room. So I'll click go on that shortly. And yeah, as Margaret said, perhaps some things you'd like to see in session 2. Just noting here, session 2 for seasonal readiness next Monday night is different. It's not a repeat session, has some different content. And Margaret, you and me might summarise that just at the end of this session. But yeah, I'll send everyone out into their rooms again. Bear with me while I click go on that. You'll have about 10 minutes. But if you didn't get your say before and you want to speak up about something, please don't hesitate. This is a safe space. We're all friends here. So just, yeah, most welcome. And I will get busy on the tech and see you shortly.
Thanks, Joe. How does that song go, Shana?
I'll pop it in the chat. I was singing to Quincy before and he left the room. I don't think it was very good.
Quincy is Shana's dog.
Yes, yes.
There we go.
Hey, Eric, you still got your hand up? Eric, have you got your hand up? Yes, you have.
Can we hear you though, Eric? You had your hand up.
No, I'm back on.
Oh,
Everyone hear me?
loud and clear.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Cheryl, hello.
Yeah.
Wendy, hello. Kat, Margaret, Joe. Howard.
Welcome back, everyone. We've got about 8 or 9 minutes. We're pretty much the same group, just maybe a few less. So, yeah, please speak up here, and if share something, you might have a question or a comment on some of the content tonight or something completely new. I just wanted to pass on that when this meeting tonight finishes, the chat will still run, and I'll keep a look in the chat. So if there's something really particular that you'd like to see in session 2, or you have a comment on tonight or a question, I will monitor it and have a look through it tonight and tomorrow, and we'll follow those up directly. So don't hesitate to jump in there and have your say. In session 2 also, we're going to be talking about how things might change a little bit in terms of the reporting lines during an activation versus the normal times when there's not an activation. For divisional leaders, that might be that'll be quite familiar, but for some people within Red Cross, especially newer people, it'll be really valuable. And we'll also have some other presentations and another guest speaker. So, but we have some flexibility in session 2 to tailor it to what we're hearing from people and some of the discussion too. So I just wanted to pass that on, but I will shut up now and mute myself.
There's actually something I will ask. How far, if a situation arises, how far into the technological aspect of it are we going to be using in activation? Is it going to be solely technology, or as always technology with paper backup? You know, how far are we into technology for RFR?
Yeah, really good one, Margaret. Quite a way in, but we have there's paper backup for everything. We did a lot of planning just after COVID, the inception of COVID, I guess, around that February, March of 2020, around what it would look like to all of us to work remotely as much as possible in an activation. Thankfully, we haven't had to test that too much other than the storm events mostly. But thankfully, with COVID coming to some kind of a conclusion, if we can say that, we will be able to be out in the field. There will always be those pre-deployment checks, of course, and there's the vaccination mandate and that work-ready status, which has been communicated across to all the volunteers. So that's obviously an aspect of this as well. But there's paper backups for everything, Margaret. Some things we do in Red Cross have been tried online and worked. Some have been tried and not worked. Some of you will know about the reimbursements job form issue. But yeah, paper backups when something happens as emergency service, first responders as well, we do have the we can be out in the field in quite a safe manner during COVID. So I hope that helps, Margaret. But it's a good one I'll make a note of that because I think it's a really interesting discussion topic to sort of continue on.
So once again, one more thing I might just say, I made a little note in the chat room. Sorry, Sandy, I hope I didn't interrupt you there. But that help desk has actually been quite helpful. And yeah, I think there were 2 or 3 important things and the response was pretty quick. So I was quite pleased with that. But like most things I need to remember, like that new PDQ form, which is not very exciting. But yeah, I I said that nicely too, Sandy. But anyway, we filled it in. But there are certain things I just have to have bookmarked and in my face because it takes a while to look for them in red. So, but yeah, your help desk is working well for me.
I'll thank you, Margaret. And I've had some involvement in in the help desk. So it's nice to hear. It's absolutely not perfect. It won't work for everybody. The one benefit of the help desk though is it takes it away from a reliance on one person in Red Cross managing emails. So especially during an activation, the help desk will be monitored very, very regularly. So it's there, it's being developed. We're trying to make it better and better and better. And it also provides us data on what people are requesting assistance with, so that we can then escalate that up to national if we're identifying some problems with things such as page up e-learning. So if we're getting lots and lots of requests, problems with that, with page up, we can, escalate that.
Yeah.
Am I the only one looking at how do you want to join your Teams meeting?
You took the words right out of my mouth, Sandy. I was wondering, but you spoke, so I knew we were still here. But yes, the white screen. How do you want to join your Teams? I suppose we can try to.
And maybe I think it's
it's a bit like what we get when we first log.
Yeah, it's Shana. May I very quickly add to your RFR conundrum? I know that I have done online in the field, and it worked, and it hasn't worked. So luckily, I did a duplicate paperwork, and it seems a lot of work, but the person who's affected was helping me with the online section, and while she was doing that, I was doing a very quick RFR paperwork. Did not send it in because it would be a duplication, and that would be a problem. But I took it back with me to headquarters with a great big note on it saying, these are copies. If you didn't get it online, here are the ones that you can check in a VEC at some time. So, because it was on and off, but I may be told off for doing that. Over now.
No, that's good backup, Sandy. As long as you feel good about it, that's the main thing. It was done.
Anything burning on your mind, Helen?
No, not really, but can somebody tell me, please, how to find the chat room? Mine's disappeared.
Oh, that little bubble next to the hand up. It's on the right-hand side. See where the hand up is and the people, the chat room in the middle. Just click on that and it should pop up at the side.
No, it doesn't. There's a hand and then there's a hide participants on.
To the left of the teams, you know, the little men or that you see there. It looks like little men. To the left, is there a little circle with a downward action with two bars in it?
There's all sorts of funny things going on, but I've had this trouble for the last few times I've been on Teams, and I just cannot find the chat room. But that's all right. Well, I'll work it out.
I've got about. I have to close the room in a minute, Helen. We go back to join everyone, but can you see my screen at all?
No,
just down the bottom.
Okay, look, Helen, I'm going to leave it because
don't worry.
I'm really.
Don't worry, I'll work it out. It just happens. It's something that's gone funny with my version of Teams. I'll have to work it out.
Yeah, no problem. No, well, I'm glad we could still hear you. And yeah, Teams is frustrating sometimes. I've had to restart and play around with mine quite a bit, so not alone. But the just a heads up, the rooms are people are gonna come back. So
Wendy.
Well, everybody, I have to say I didn't really want to come back. It's lovely to see you all, but I didn't really want to come back. I was having a really, really nice conversation. And I'm sure you all were having really, really nice conversations. And I'd like to, just without notice, invite, this is my notice, Kate Siebert. I'd like to, without notice, invite Kate Siebert to say a couple of words, because she was just getting to the point in our chat where she was going, oh, what I'm hearing here is about the importance of getting together. And I know that there are lots of really useful pieces of information that you all shared within your groups, and that you will email me and the team tomorrow, and we'll go and do the work and do the catching up. And Lisa and the group will bring it together into the next preparedness seasonal readiness session. But what I'd like to do is to invite Kate. She can just tell us a little bit about her thought process just before we got catapulted out. Kate, are you happy to tell us the bit that you were just about to share with our group? Are you there?
Yeah, thanks, Margaret. Oh, man, we were just in a beautiful conversation, and thanks for the opportunity. I've just popped again some of the thoughts that were coming out of the discussion, but really interestingly, you know, we, like so many of us, are sort of trying to squeeze all of our social activities into the last part of November and December for 2021, because we didn't get a chance to do all the things we love to do. It's much the same for you and your teams. You won't have had much of a chance to connect and share a meal or a cup of tea or whatever it is that makes you, you know, the reason that you joined Red Cross was not just to respond to emergencies, but I'm sure it was to build connections with people that you who you've grown to like and grown to enjoy spending time with. And we haven't had that chance to be together. One of the things we were talking about is perhaps reconnecting, but not just to talk about the job, to talk about life and build friendships and build trust and knowledge and all of those things that will come, but through that purpose, but really connecting up as teams, as cohesive, beautiful teams, so that we can do what the world asks of us when other things happen that call on Red Cross. But we just haven't had that opportunity. And so being conscious, I think we were talking about perhaps in the next session, having the opportunity to figure out how you build a team again, because it's been 2 years of total disruption. And let's do it on purpose rather than accidentally.
Thank you so much, Kate Siebert, and for being prepared to jump in and share that with this whole group. One thing that Kate often says to us is that if we don't have trust in the centre of what we do, you know, we can't do anything. So having that sense of trust and connectivity with our people, our teams, is one of the best ways that we know to get ready for whatever comes next. Thank you, Kate. Thank you to everyone. I'd just like, in closing tonight, to remind you that yes, we have another session next week. Please come along. Please invite other people. If they couldn't make it to this session, they're still welcome to come to the next one. We will record it. We will distribute the pack of information with the links and all of the things that you get to see. Lisa's, the seasonal outlook that she took us through. You'll get to hear the good self-care tips that Kate and JJ kicked off with, and you'll hear a little bit more from Shana with the links that she's got there for help and getting ready as well. So that's all mixed up order. But I wanted to say, I hope to see you all next week. I hope to hear from you across the week. Thank you so much to our guest speakers tonight. Also, thank you so much to the team who put this event together in the background. And I know that is Lisa Keedle and Joe Park, it's Shana, it's also Kim Matusek, who's been doing some tech support here tonight. So grateful to you. Very grateful to Tony Duffin and to JJ Edmondson, who also were our volunteer experts on seasonal readiness and who are on the working team behind this to make sure that this happens. So thank you very much to all of you. Thank you to everyone coming online tonight. I think we've had a really great turnout. I hope that it has met your expectations. Let us know if it has or if it hasn't, and we'll work better for it next week. But really appreciate your time on a Monday evening to come and join us with what we're doing in terms of our seasonal readiness. And everyone have a great night, have a great week, and it's so fantastic to see your faces. I can't wait till we can do it in person one day. See you later, everybody.
Thanks all. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, Mark.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks, Kate. Thanks, Margaret. Nice to see you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Night, night. Sleep well. Now I've got to get out of this. This is hard.
No, stay forever. Joe, don't forget to turn the recording part off.